This week, Mike hangs out with Nathan Drake one last time with his review of Uncharted 4, A Thief's End. We avoid the undead in the far reaches of the galaxy in eagerly anticipated indie sequel Space Pirates and Zombies 2, and spend some time at the movies checking out the hypercolour acid trip that is Alice through the Looking Glass. This is Player Attack. Hi, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this week the games industry is abuzz with rumour and speculation about just what might be happening at E3 in a couple of weeks. The biggest theory is that we will see multiple console announcements at the Los Angeles show, with US retailer GameStop predicting as much in a recent earnings report. While we've already been told that Nintendo's NX will not be on show, the retailer's comments do add weight to the persistent story that there's both a revamped PlayStation 4 and a new Xbox One on the way. Known as both the PlayStation 4.5 and the PlayStation 4K, Sony's offering is reportedly codenamed Neo and boasts upgraded CPU and RAM as well as supporting 4K graphics. One rumour suggests that games might ship with a standard PS4 mode and a new Neo mode, so you can choose your level of graphical fidelity. Microsoft, on the other hand, is apparently working on 2 new Xbox One builds. One is a smaller, less expensive Xbox One with a larger hard drive, a sort of Xbox One Slim edition. The other, reportedly codenamed Scorpio, features a more powerful GPU, 4K support and Oculus Rift compatibility. It's reportedly backwards compatible out of the box, features 6 teraflops peak power, and may or may not come with a redesigned controller. Meanwhile, the original PlayStation 4 is doing pretty well for itself. Sony confirmed this week that 40 million units have been sold to customers, with nearly 271 million games to go along with them. It doesn't stop there. Another 20 million PS4s are expected to be sold by the end of Sony's financial year, that is, the end of March 2017. That's an increase on the previous year, which saw a measly 17 million consoles sold. Getting back to E3 for a moment though, and fans are busily speculating about just which games will be shown off. This week there is an unexpected entry onto the list, Prey 2, which created plenty of buzz back at E3 2011, but was then unceremoniously dropped by Bethesda in 2014. Now though, Prey2.com and Prey3.com are redirecting to a hidden Facebook page suggesting that something's in the works. Stay tuned, Bethesda's pre-show event is on Sunday, June 12, and that's our bet for any big reveals. And if you're in LA but not a part of the games industry, there's a new opportunity for you to attend E3, sort of. You're still not able to get onto the show floor, but a new event, E3 Live, will be held just down the road from the LA Convention Center, giving gamers a chance to get up close and personal with games, developers, and exclusive merch. Running from Tuesday, June 14 until Thursday, June 16, the event is free with tickets offered on a first-in, best-dressed basis, and a pass will get you 5 hours of gaming goodness. If you can't even get that close, all the press conferences will be streamed on e3pressconferences.com, which also lists what time everything is happening in your part of the world. Moving on, and a new live-action trailer for Deus Ex: Mankind Divided has us really excited for the game, due out in August. We're still not completely comfortable with the mechanical apartheid catchphrase, but if you ever doubted that these games mirrored real life, this should convince you.
This is an attack on humanity and the universal values that we share.
These people were hacked. They had no control.
What is the appropriate response? And can we actually protect ourselves from this happening again?
I have no idea what happened. I would never...
He tried to kill me.
At what point will governments consider the idea of segregation for all our sakes?
We can be politically correct, or we can be foolish, but it's going to get worse and worse.
The Czech Republic adds its voice to a growing list of countries calling for the relocation of its augmented citizens.
No
Reports
choice.
of severe shortages of the drug neuropozyne required to inhibit the rejection of augmentations.
And we will fight for our God-given rights to defend our will.
In a sign of growing anti-augmentation sentiment, thousands march.
It doesn't matter how many idiots you get out there on the street. We will not relinquish our limbs. Do you understand?
What is happening on this planet is a mass fear-mongering, and the mainstream media pushing this narrative.
The officer suffered severe facial injury.
Incident after incident after
You need to be afraid, because they are coming for you.
Now, some news that has made many people very upset. No Man's Sky has been delayed. While that's bad enough news, what's worse is the way the game's community has reacted. When the news was first rumoured last week, the writer who broke the story was bombarded with hate mail, including death threats for disappointing fans. Then, when Hello Games developer Sean Murray confirmed that the game would miss its June release date and would instead ship in early August, he was also showered in hate and received his own share of death threats. If you think about that for a moment, it does seem a little self-defeating. And there's more bad news if you're a fan of The Witcher. While those real-world Gwent cards are still available, CD Projekt Red has announced they won't be shipping anymore after June 10. If you want some and haven't gotten them yet, act fast. There are 2 packs available, one with the limited editions of each of the 2 Witcher 3 expansions, both Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine. If you've picked up a retail copy, the cards are included. If you prefer your games to be of the digital variety though, it is a matter of supplying CD Projekt Red with proof of purchase and they will ship them out to you directly. In happier news, there are 4 comics on the way to tell the story between Dishonored and the upcoming Dishonored 2, and if that's not enough for you, there's a set of 3 novels due out as well, which cover the same period. The comics are written by 2000 AD favourite Gordon Rennie and illustrated by Batman Beyond's Andrea Olimpieri and Marcello Maiolo, with the first one due out in August and a graphic novel compilation happening in November. The first of the books, which are written by Adam Christopher, is due in September 2016. Now, some quick news. Ron Gilbert has sent an open letter to Disney offering to pay real actual money in exchange for the rights to his games Monkey Island and Maniac Mansion. Disney, of course, is no longer making its own games, so what's it really going to do with all those licenses? Rocket League now officially supports cross-platform multiplayer on Xbox One, meaning that if you're playing the car football hybrid on PC, you can play against opponents on either major console. Developer Psyonix describes it as a historic moment and is thrilled to deliver something that fans have been asking for since the day the game launched. Unfortunately, the Xbox One still can't talk to the PS4, but it is certainly a step in the right direction. And this week's movie news is actually TV news, and it's come out of nowhere. EA has signed a deal to bring Mirror's Edge to the small screen, working with Endemol Shine Studios to create a science fiction TV series inspired by the free-running story from DICE. Even though we don't know anything about the story, and there's no guarantee it'll be picked up by a broadcaster, and the series can't possibly be as good as we actually want it to be, the concept is pretty sound. But the big question, though, is who should play Faith? Mirror's Edge Catalyst launches for PC, PS4 and Xbox One from June 7. For more information on any of these stories, or to keep up to date with the latest gaming news, head to PlayerAttack.com. But for now, stick around, we've got plenty more still to come.
It was a strange feeling when I put down the controller at the end of Uncharted 4: A Thief's End, a game that since its announcement has been described by its developers Naughty Dog as the final game of the series, as they will be moving on to new things. With the knowledge that this is the last one, at least by this very talented team, I found myself appreciating everything that has come before it from the studio even more, as all of their hard work on previous titles and the lessons they have learned are made apparent. While this is most definitely an Uncharted game, the bar of quality has been raised once again, as they have turned in not just the best game in a series, but also one of the greatest action games of all time. Nathan Drake, our plucky rogue who always seems to be poking his nose in where it doesn't belong, has finally settled down to a normal life. Working in salvage at the beginning of the game, it feels like a terrible waste of the character's talents to be doing such mundane work, but Nathan has made a promise to his wife, Elena, to be done with the life that threw him together in the first place, his gun laid down and his shirt now tucked all the way. Nathan is bored out of his mind. He misses the adventure. His mind wanders whenever he sees a picturesque painting that reminds him of the excitement. He even keeps all of his old discovered artifacts in his attic, too precious to Nathan for him to let go to some museum. A toy gun and several badly drawn targets made out of cardboard flank the roof supports and shelves to help him keep his edge, or just to get the adrenaline flowing. I would not have been surprised if he had a rock climbing wall in the backyard. I felt bad for Nathan. Then one day, Sam shows up. Nathan's brother, who was presumed dead for the last 15 years, is alive but not so well. He's in trouble and only Nathan can help him. Get ready to untuck half of that shirt, Nate. We've got an adventure to go on. What follows is roughly 12 to 15 hours of globe-trotting, rock climbing, character quipping and headshotting. So far, so Uncharted. The difference here is that every single system appears to have been given an overhaul. The climbing, whilst never bad, is made a much more tense task through a combination of new character animations, camera angling, and conversation between Nate and Sam, which adds to the danger. The new grappling hook gets plenty of time to shine too, both during climbing downtime, as well as the all-out action set pieces. The best thing a developer can do when inventing new systems for their games is to integrate them in such a way that they either feel like they were always there, or make you wonder how the previous titles existed without it. Both of those are true for Uncharted 4. The Uncharted games have always looked great, yet the jump to PlayStation 4 has helped Naughty Dog's work truly shine. Environments look stunning, from the vast volcanic vistas of Madagascar to the light reflections in the pooled water of a Jeep's tire tread. Never before has a world felt so realised on console. Speaking of realism, the boost in power, a few extra years of motion capture improvement, and a crew of very talented people all amount to some of the most believable characters in video games, both visually and emotionally. The entire cast of actors turned in a brilliant performance, from Nolan North's Nathan and Emily Rose's Elena to longtime friend and father figure Victor Sullivan, played by Richard McGonigal. Nate's brother Sam, played by Troy Baker, has instant chemistry with Nate, which only solidifies the belief that these characters are family. Keep an eye out for the antagonists too. I won't go into details here for spoiler reasons, but because of them this adventure is grounded and personal enough to be considered on par with the narrative masterpiece that is The Last of Us. Multiplayer makes a return for the series too, and is surprisingly fun. The action of the single player translates to a competitive setting pretty well, and the grappling hook makes the transition too, which makes for some awesome swings away from danger. Or into it. It's a fairly basic offering with team deathmatch, domination and capture the flag, but while it can definitely be fun, with other multiplayer powerhouses recently on the market like Overwatch and Battleborn fighting for attention, it is a part of the game that can be bypassed in favour for spending more time with the stellar campaign. Uncharted 4's story feels like Naughty Dog's love letter to the fans that have been there from the beginning. It is one of the greatest action campaigns of all time, and the bar of quality has now been set even higher than it already was. It's a fitting swan song and tremendous end to a journey. I can't wait to see what Naughty Dog has plans for next, whatever they might be. Crash Bandicoot.
Min-Max had a pretty neat idea with space pirates and zombies. They probably could have just added a few new bits and a new story and called it a sequel, and fans would have lapped it up. Space Pirates and Zombies 2 is not that though. Gone is the 2D art, almost static galaxy and minimal player development. In its place are customisable 3D spaceships, an ever-evolving galaxy with hundreds of other ship captains, factional infighting and some RPG elements thrown in for good measure. And more space zombies, of course, they always come back. Without giving away too much of the campaign story, you start the game in charge of what is left of the crew from the original game and the cobbled together ship they're flying. You're kind of set loose on the galaxy, nudged in the direction of making some new friends. The other captains, whether they're independents like you or aligned with other factions, can help or hinder you along the way. They're all capable of thinking for themselves, after a fashion, remembering everything they see other captains doing. If you fly around gunning down every ship of one faction, your standing with the entire faction will drop considerably, but it may rise with another. So that's the pirate bit. The zombies, of course, just want to assimilate the entire population of the galaxy. There's no negotiating with them, and they really don't care what else is going on in the galaxy. They're not dumb, they have a unique intelligence, and captains defeated by zombies maintain some of their own individuality when they join the undead fleet. In the original game, you would get a pre-built ship layout due to the 2D graphics with a certain number of hardpoints to which you could attach weapons and other utility items. Now though, things are a little more complex. At the heart of your ship is a base cube, which has 4 attachment points to which you can attach extra core segments, wings, noses, or engines. If the center cube is destroyed, you're reloading a save or riding an escape pod. You use a tractor beam to manipulate parts into other desired locations, which can be a little finicky at times, but it's a fun process. New parts can be purchased from starbases or picked up as loot after battles, and you can swap them in and out freely. The most common shipbuilding strategy, especially among the AI, is to put additional core parts both fore and aft your primary core, creating a long ship. Strap some wings alongside both sides, a narrow nose at the front and a narrow engine at the rear, and you have a perfectly good ship. Digging further into the parts list will reveal some parts that require more than one attachment point. Larger engines in particular can be appealing as your ship will move a lot faster, but you'll have to sacrifice some attachment points lengthwise. If you find a lot of really good engines and nose parts, you could go with a very wide ship instead, putting your extra cores left and right of the main core. You end up with 1 slot wings on either side of your ship, which may limit your steering somewhat, but place your weapons carefully and you could wreck a lot of ships in the first pass. All this ship assembling is leading to battle, naturally. Combat plays out much like the battles of Star Trek, with the large ships jockeying for the most advantageous position to unload their arsenal of beams, cannons and missiles, while avoiding the enemy's attempts to do the same. It's when zombies start getting involved that things start getting a lot more complicated. You still need to worry about positioning your ship in the best fashion to fight the raw power of the enemy ship, but even more concerning are the infection-laden rockets many of them carry. If you get hit dead on with one while your shield is up, all the little zombie giblets will shred out your shield in the blink of an eye. If your shield is down, the trouble really starts. Once the infection gets a toehold on your ship, it will start to spread. During the battle, this will decrease your overall ship health and impact your systems. It's rough. The problems don't end if you win the fight. Once you get back to the galaxy map, the infection will begin to spread unless it's dealt with. The more heavily infected your ship has become, the harder it will be to cleanse. Also, there's star bases you can capture, as you can zombies and everybody else, and a sandbox mode where all bets are off and you can do whatever you want. But mostly you build a ship and look for ways to make your ship better and try to avoid getting eaten by zombies before your ship is good enough to kill all the zombies. It's great. The early access version of the game has the single player portion fully fleshed out and playable from start to finish. Multiplayer may be added later, but the single player alone, in its current state, is more than enough to justify the purchase.
Alice!
Alice! Thank goodness you're finally here! It's that girl again! Alice! You're back!
In the days since I tripped through the looking glass with Alice, I've described it in a number of ways. It's a psychedelic explosion of colour, a sugar high the size of Everest, a ridiculous over-the-top riot of curiouser and curiouser moments tied together with a storyline that, let's be honest, doesn't really owe very much at all to Lewis Carroll's book. A lot of the things are the same in this second Alice outing. The same ensemble cast has been regathered, including the late Alan Rickman as Absalom, the guiding light of the caterpillar turned butterfly. Mia Wazukawa is a more mature Alice, a ship's captain who is spurning romantic advances in favour of fighting pirates on the Seven Seas. She returns to Underland and discovers her truest friend, Johnny Depp's madder than Mad Hatter, is dying, not of madness or lead poisoning, but of sadness. He's become convinced that his family were not killed by the ridiculously bobble-headed Red Queen and her Jabberwocky, but are in fact alive, and that they've cast him out for being an embarrassment. Given Alice's timely return, it is up to her to find out what happened to Hatter's family, and if they are indeed alive, reunite them with their wayward son. To do this, it's a simple matter of manipulating the tides of the ocean of time. The only risk involved is perhaps breaking all of Underland in the process.
She will come back home to Wonderland and turn back the hands of time.
Time is a he. He is not someone you want as your enemy. Please, sir. The Hatter is in danger.
Young lady, your time is up.
The one person who notably did not return to this film in the same role is Tim Burton, whose signature gothic style brought life to the first movie. He's still on board as producer, but this time James Bobbin from Muppets Most Wanted has stepped up to the director's chair. This change, plus the fact that Burton's Alice drank so deeply from the well of Lewis Carroll's book, featuring elements from both Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, makes Alice Through the Looking Glass a very different movie, and not one that's going to win the more traditional fans. Making up for the lack of literary inspiration, Bobbin's film goes heavy on the glitter. Sacha Baron Cohen shines as Time himself, an unexpected love interest for Helena Bonham Carter's deliciously distorted Red Queen. In a world of fairly two-dimensional characters, including, unfortunately, the Mad Hatter himself, this part-person, part-clock Time is complicated and complicating as he struggles to keep Alice's adventures from causing too much havoc. That said, the two-dimensional characters are the ones in the foreground to the point where Alice herself becomes a bit of a passenger underneath it all, which is a pity because her coming-of-age storyline is quite powerful and, dare I say it, has some serious feminist overtones. 3 years after the original film, Alice must face the sort of life-changing decision that confronts us all at a certain age as she wrestles with the pressures of being grown up. Don't get me wrong though, Alice Through the Looking Glass is a lot of fun. It was filmed in 3D and it's the kind of film that really benefits from the treatment. Whether it's the sweeping seascapes of the oceans of time or the mechanical elements ticking in Time's tower, the three-dimensional effects really do add an extra depth to the adventure, and it's great to see that finally we've moved on from the era where 3D movies mean cliched pop-outs and jump scares. Sure, this one's not as well executed as Burton's adaptation, but those were some big shoes to fill. And speaking of shoes, there is a lot going on in Underland, not the least of which is the costumes. I can't wait to see cosplayers getting their hands on some of these outfits. The details are outstanding, whether it's Alice's relatively simple ship's captain jacket or her over-the-top Chinese-inspired number. The Mad Hatter offers a couple of looks, even his faded, dying self is inspiring, and of course, Helena Bonham Carter is Helena Bonham Carter.
Hello, Alice.
Perhaps we shouldn't be considering Alice Through the Looking Glass to be an acid trip. Perhaps it's one of the sugary delights from the Mad Hatter's tea party. Nobody eats fairy floss for the nutritional value. They eat it because it's fun and it's different and it's a little bit of melt-in-your-mouth escapism. That's kind of what this film is like. It won't stand up as a great piece of cinema, but there are some genuinely wonderful moments tucked away under all the fluff and frosting.
I present you with a gift.
And that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Thanks for watching. Next week, we head back to the cinema to watch the Warcraft movie and spend a bit of time with some mobile games as we get ready for our trip to E3. In the meantime, you can catch us at playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. And if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com, or just hop on our forums. Also, if you want to support Player Attack, you can find us on Patreon. Every little bit helps us bring you the latest in gaming news, plus all of these wonderful interviews and reviews from the world of video games. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.